Morning, folks. Councilman Rasmussen here. I'm coming to you with my update from our Smyrna Town Council meeting last night, Monday, March 7th. The general updates, there are obviously a number of events, springtime events. We've got Easter egg hunts and things like that coming up. All of the events can be found on the town event page. A lot of them are going to be in the town tidbits. So make sure that you go out and, be on that email list, sign up for the text updates and things like that. You could do all of that on the town website if you're not already signed up, but that's going to be the best place to find out about lots of stuff like that. Probably the biggest thing coming up this month as far as town business goes is the town election. There's a couple of things associated with that. The candidate meet and greet event is going to be at Town Hall next Monday, the 14th, from 6 to 8 p.m. So if you would like to meet some of the candidates, if you don't already know us, you can come out to that event from 6 to 8. It's at Town Hall on Monday. It's pretty informal. There's not like presentations or anything. It's sort of, you can just stop in and say hello, however you would like to do it. So. And then the council election, so this is actually the day to vote, that is on April 29th, Tuesday, April 29th, that runs at Town Hall. Also, it runs all day. I believe it's 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., so you can come in at any point during the day as long as you are a registered voter. If you need to find out information about being a registered voter, you can go onto the town website under the elections site and see all the information that you're going to need to make sure that you are eligible to vote in the town election. So both of the open seat or the open positions, the mayor position and the at-large position for which I'm running for, are town-wide. So pretty much everybody in town is eligible to vote in this particular election. We do not have a district council seat because only one person ran for the open district council seat, which was Council District 1. So put that on your calendar. Come out April 29th. As far as the meeting last night, so we started off the meeting with a hearing. This is a hearing on property tax appeals and additions to property tax bills. What this is that if you have had a change to your assessment this year and you feel that assessment is not accurate in some way, it's an opportunity to come out and to appeal to the town council to let us know. Or if you've had an addition to your tax bill, which means if you had unpaid taxes from a previous year, if you had unpaid utility bills or fines for other reasons, those get added to tax bills. You can come out and appeal those as well. For the last 4 years, we've only ever had one person show up to do this. This year, we actually had 3 people sign up. So there's a small group of council members, myself, Councilman Pope, and Councilwoman Gott, who are serving on this. It was a chance for people to come to us, tell us what they felt, how they felt, and then ultimately that group makes a recommendation to council if there are any recommended changes or proposals associated with that appeal. 2 of the 3 people that came out to appeal just didn't want to pay their taxes. They didn't like their bills and they just thought their taxes should be lower. They weren't there to actually contest the assessment. There was no change to their assessment this year. They just wanted to express that they wanted lower taxes, which I think everybody wants lower taxes, so that's no surprise. It's always difficult. Both of these are folks who moved here in the last few years because we had lower taxes. They moved from places with higher taxes, and I guess they assumed that the taxes would always be the same, which unfortunately is not correct. So there's nothing that the Board of Appeals for the tax appeals can do to change the tax rate for an individual. So they were really just there expressing that they thought they should pay less in taxes because they used to pay less in taxes. We did have one person who was there to actually appeal that they had purchased a house this last year. It was in a newly built house. The water was turned on to water the lawn for 2 months before they were able to move into the house, and they didn't realize that that was going to happen, and that there was going to be sewer charges along with it, and they ended up with about $1,500 or so in water and sewer bills for 2 months that they didn't live in the house. And so they were appealing, asking if we were able to waive those bills, because as soon as they found out about it, they went and had the water turned off. So those were the three people who came to the council to actually appeal that. That took about 15 minutes before the council meeting, and then we had our regular scheduled council meeting, and I'll tell you what we did at that point. So as far as the actual council meeting, general updates from different council members, we had a number of events. Last weekend, there's not this last weekend, but the weekend before, was the dedication at the park for the new veterans monuments. A lot of people showed up for that. I was actually here working at the distillery, so I wasn't able to be there for it. But that was probably the biggest thing. So we got some updates on that, and obviously thank yous to all of the people who make something like that possible. As far as the actual agenda for our meeting last night, we didn't have a ton of items. Actually, the meeting was done in, I think, about 45 minutes or so. We had 2 old business items. We had a third reading of Ordinance 5-25. This is the final reading of the ordinance to make the updates to the school district impact fees. I've mentioned this a lot. I'm very, very happy that this is done, because this is the last of the impact fees that the town either collects for ourselves or collects for somebody else, as in the case for the school district. These impact fees are very important to make sure that people moving into this community, new developments, when they are built, pay their fair share of the cost to deliver services to this community. If those impact fees are not representative of the true costs of the infrastructure associated with things like schools, or fire stations and ambulance stations, or police stations, or parks, then it is the rest of the community that bears the brunt of that development. And for whatever reason, these impact fees haven't been updated in 20 years. That has now changed. Every single one of the town impact fees has been updated in the last 3 years, and they have all been indexed to inflation, meaning that they're going to automatically continue to go up. So if they are not if another study is not conducted, at least there's going to be an inflationary increase in those impact fees to make sure that we don't fall as far behind on all those areas as we were. Really, a study should be done for each one of those impact fees every 3 to 5 years. The town, we can commission our study for the town municipal impact fees. So that's like our municipal impact fee, our police impact fee, our parks impact fee. The other impact fees that are pass-throughs, like the school district, that is a study that the school district should be commissioning every 3 to 5 years, and then bringing that study to the town council to implement the new recommended impact fees. Hopefully we're back on that schedule, right? We were off it for 20 years. We've now addressed some of that. It doesn't help with the costs associated with the growth over the last 20 years while this wasn't done, but it at least sets us up for moving forward in a much better position to truly collect those capital costs or those the impact fees associated with those capital costs when we think about growth that increases the need for schools, fire stations, ambulance stations, police stations, all of those things. So it's a great thing. I'm happy that it's done. It will make the cost of building a house here in Smyrna a little bit more. I've had people tell me that they think that's great because it means fewer people will move here. That's an opinion you're welcome to have. I think there are more people and more people need places to live. There's always going to be people looking to buy homes. So hopefully this is a fair deal for everybody, where our impact fees reflect the true needs of our community, and that they don't make housing so expensive that people can't afford to move to our community and build their lives here, like my family and thousands of other families have had the opportunity to do. The third reading, so that was the third reading of that ordinance. It is now fully in place and will be being implemented immediately. We also had the third reading of ordinance number 007-25. This was an update to the town rental properties rules. I've mentioned this one also a few times we've gone through. This is one of those instances where the town needs to make a change to the code because there are people who are bad actors. And it's an unfortunate thing. We used to allow that if you were renting out a property to an immediate family member, you did not have to have that property inspected on a regular basis as part of the rental process. But we end up with people who are renting properties to family members that don't meet code, have a variety of issues, and it creates legal troubles for the town. So we had to update that to include that all rental properties, whether it is to a stranger or a normal like sort of arm's length transaction or to a family member, those properties are going to be subject to the same rental inspection rules as everybody else. This is the third and final reading of that. That will now be going into effect, and ultimately that is our rental ordinance. So when this doesn't impact everybody, but if you are renting properties, you could see a change to what those rental property ordinances look like when they hit your desk the next time. Those were the old business items that were on the list. As far as the new business items, there were a few of these. One was Resolution 3-25. So this is a resolution to begin an annexation process for the property located at 1510 Paddock Road. If you are driving out Paddock Road, this is kind of, you got the Wawa on the left-hand side, then you've got the portion that's owned by Homestead Gardens where the old hot houses are, and then there's basically just a big empty field back there. That's the property we're talking about. It's owned by KRM, who own the whole business park that's on the right-hand side of Paddock Road there. They wanted to annex that property into town so that it can be used for a commercial use. It's going to be zoned IORP just like the rest of the business park. So it's sort of essentially a little bit more of an extension for the business park. There is not a defined use for this property yet. They have expressed some interest in using it for truck parking if they have a large user that will be bringing in semi-trucks as a place for them to pull in, to stage those trucks and to park them. But ultimately, it's up to KRM how they decide to lease out this property and for what function. The resolution that we passed last night basically begins the process of bringing that property into town. So there will be there's an application that's been filled out. There'll now need to be a public hearing associated with that. It will need to go to the Planning and Zoning Commission in order for them to review it, and then eventually it will make its way back to Town Council for a final approval. The property's been in our annexation plan for decades. It's just waiting for the owner to come and say, okay, now we're ready to annex it into town so that we can ultimately develop this piece of property. So you'll hear about this hopefully as it moves through the process, but it will likely take a couple of months at least before it actually is formally annexed into the town. So the resolution last night basically started that process. We then had a first reading of an ordinance. This is ordinance 008-25. If you haven't noticed how the ordinances work, it's the number of the ordinance that year plus the year. This is updates, and they're mostly semantic updates to the solid waste recycling and yard waste disposal and collection requirements. This is the garbage. The town of Smyrna is getting ready we're going out right now to do a new garbage contract. The previous garbage contract with Waste Management ends in August. I believe it's August 25th is the last date of the existing contract that we have. And we need to go out for a new vendor to provide garbage service to the town of Smyrna. We're starting that much earlier this time than we did last time. Last time it was a panic at the end, and we only had one person submit a proposal. So that's how Waste Management got that job. We're having a pre-bid meeting coming up, and as part of that, the town has identified some clarity that they want to make sure we have in our town code so that those things are accurately reflected in that new contract. And some of them are little things. The town code previously required a 64-gallon container as the container that's provided for us to pick up for your garbage and your recycling. Those are the ones that I have at my house, are the 64-gallon containers. But they're actually an odd size, apparently, and kind of hard to get. versus a 95-gallon container, which is the standard size ones, which actually my neighbor has because they signed up. They got theirs delivered later than I. So updating the code to make sure that we are actually requiring the 95-gallon container, not a 64-gallon container. Updating the code to make sure that it's clear that Freon containing things like refrigerators and air conditioning units are not things that will be collected during bulk recycling and bulk pickup. And also providing a little bit more flexibility in the code to allow for some either multi-unit, like apartment buildings, and for some smaller commercial users for the town to be able to provide service to those if that capacity exists. Right now the code says you can have, one garbage can, you can pay for a second one as part of your thing, but if you need more than that, you've got to go out. We do have some users who, maybe 2 garbage cans isn't enough, but they also don't have the ability to have a dumpster, or they don't need, they need 3 garbage cans. And right now the code basically says you're either, basically a residential user, or you have to find your own garbage service. For a company like mine at Paint and Stave and Taco Jardín, we have our own dumpsters because we produce plenty of garbage, and so from the day we opened, we've had our own trash service private from the town. But there are folks who could benefit from having that access if the capacity exists, and so giving ourselves the flexibility to offer that in the next contract by updating the code. It's mostly semantic stuff, a couple of lines here and there, but it's stuff that the clarity will be better because then it gives us more ability to have conversations and negotiate when we actually do begin to receive proposals from trash collection. So you will see at the end of this year, well, you may see, come August, a changeover in the garbage collection, and there will probably be lots of communication coming out about what that looks like. It's always a messy process if we're changing from one collection company to another. So it's gonna happen. So hopefully it happens much more smoothly this year than it did the last time. So we also had resolution. The next 2 items sort of go hand in hand. So I mentioned the council hearing on the tax appeals, and then we have a final resolution to adopt the final tax numbers. So the idea is that the hearings are, if there's going to be a change, those 3 members, Councilwoman Gott, Councilman Pope, and myself, we make a recommendation, a motion to make an amendment to the tax assessment list, and then we ultimately approve that tax assessment list. The motion that the Tax Appeals Board made was that we would be willing to waive for the person who came to the town asking about their water bill that was applied for watering their lawn, that we would be willing to waive the sewer portion of that bill because ultimately none of that water went down the sewer. There was no cost to the town to provide that other than providing the water for it, and it was a reasonable request that ultimately we could waive the sewer portion of that bill because it didn't cost the town anything to do it. So we made a motion to make that change, and then we approved the final assessment list. So what that final assessment list is now everybody's tax bills can be prepared because the assessments are what they're going to be, and then those bills will be being ready to be sent out. Typically you get those in May, so you got about another month or so till those show up. Those were the items that there was some sort of discussion or action associated with. We had 2 more items on the agenda that were more discussion items. One was sort of a continuing conversation about the idea of the town's budget reserves. We have, people often refer to it as a rainy day fund. The technical term is a budget reserve that is defined in code. In my opinion, it is not very well defined in code because it does not specify how it should be funded. It doesn't specify exactly what should be used in calculating how much we need. And I think it has created some conversation and questions over the years. There needs to be an effort, a workshop. Ultimately, this is a policy decision that the council needs to make. The town staff should be, involved and part of it, but it's a policy decision that the council would need to determine and then direct staff to implement as part of the budget process every single year. So the idea of this is there was no work on this last night. It's just sort of keeping this idea front and center that we need to talk about and figure this out. Ideally, probably after the next election, there will be, hopefully, people will keep up this and have an active conversation about what this should look like and better define it in code so that there are fewer questions about what it is, how it should be used, those sort of things. When there are questions like that, when there's ambiguity in the code, I think it creates opportunities for interpretation that maybe create more problems than they solve. I believe that's one of these instances, from my opinion. And then the last thing we had was about Zoom practice. So if you've been on some of the Zoom meetings or you've been in town council, we've had some incidents where people Zoom bomb into our Facebook Live broadcasts, our meetings, usually with lewd and racist images. It's a thing that people do. I have no idea why. But rather than, we've had some instance where people think that we should just stop doing these because of that stuff happening. I am, as I stated last night, I'm against that. I think that we absolutely need to be utilizing all of the technology that's available to us. It's 2025. People interact and engage in many different ways than we did years and years ago. We need to put in whatever the investment is necessary to figure out a process by which we can continue to allow public participation, whether that's just viewing or how we're going to let people comment through items like Zoom or Facebook Live that we currently use. The town is installing some new technology in the council chambers, televisions, so that presentations can be seen, viewed by everybody, better utilizing those. But there's still a risk, no matter what, that if you allow somebody to speak, they could decide to use their time to try and share information or share their opinions that are not aren't appropriate for a public environment like that. It's a risk we take. I think that the risk is worth the public input and the public engagement that we can get through those tools. And overall, I think that most of the council agrees with that, and our staff is certainly working diligently to find ways to implement that best create a safe space for people to engage, as well as and allow for public input and mitigate those people who want to be bad actors in those circumstances. What we're going to try is a system by which everybody is automatically muted when they come on. The only way that you can ask questions is if you submit it through the chat feature, and one of our staff members moderates that during each one of the live sessions, so that we can hopefully stem off somebody who wants to try and submit something that's not appropriate for public. If that doesn't work, then we'll pivot and we'll figure out the next best thing. But that was just a general conversation and discussion about what that would look like going forward. So that's the rundown from the council meeting as it stands from last night. Something that is happening this evening is the town manager and the town solicitor have called for a special council meeting. The agenda for this has been posted up. There is a question about eligibility for one of the people who is running for the mayor position, and so they have called a special council meeting this evening at 6:30 to discuss that. I will, assuming that there is something to be updated from that, I'll try and post another video about that tomorrow to see where that lies. But that's going to be going on this evening. We don't normally have special council meetings. We have to waive the 7-day thing because it's considered to be something of importance that can't wait at least a week to be able to do it. But they asked to have a special council meeting this evening, so we'll do it. That's about it for my updates for this week. As always, get on the town tidbits, get on the town update lists on the website so you can hear about all this sort of stuff. Next Monday night, the 14th, from 6 to 8 p.m. is the Meet the Candidates night at Town Hall, and then the 29th is going to be the election. So put all that stuff on your schedule if you don't already have it there. As always, please reach out. Let me know if you have any questions, if I can help. I did mention in another post, so Facebook is started taking down these videos after 30 days. So I am now archiving them on YouTube. So what I will do after this video is I'll I'll download it and then I will upload it to YouTube so that it's there whether or not Facebook takes it down or not. It's not an ideal thing, but I guess, when I went back through, I had like 75 videos that were uploaded to Facebook. I guess they don't want to let everyone have every video that they could ever imagine. So if you go to look for this video in a month, it won't be on Facebook anymore, but you will still be able to find it on YouTube. So thanks as always. Take care, everyone. Bye.